This is an electoral college map, and I'm going to fill it out because I think I know everything because I'm 27 years old. All kidding aside, I'm going to try to predict the outcome of the presidential election using primary results. And so what I've done here first is filled out each state where I'm pretty sure they're going to vote blue or red. So we got the South, which has always been red, and then we got the left coast, which has always been blue. So you guys can follow along up top and see how it's going. So remember, we need 270 votes to win each state. So let's get started. I'm going to start with Arizona first. So I'm going to pull up Arizona. And so what I did here is I went to New York Times and I got the primary results for the 2016 election. And then I went to a site called 270 to Win, which had the results of the primary elections for 2020. And then, of course, I compared it to previous results on here. So we got presidential voting history, and then we got how they voted in 2016. So in this case, Donald Trump won Arizona by 48 to 44 in this sense. So yeah, let's get started. Um, so for 2016, Donald Trump was able to get 530,000 Arizonans to vote. But what we're really going to look at is the Democrats and see how they've increased. So in the Democratic primary, Hillary. I'm not just counting Hillary Clinton voters. I'm counting all Democrats, because if you're motivated enough to vote in the primary, then you're probably going to vote in an election and not stay home. So what I've discovered is 409,000 Democrats showed up to vote uh, in the primary, and so in 2020 we see that 525,000 Democrats showed up to vote. So that's an increase. 115,000 Democrats decide to show up. And so, if the reason why I'm going to make my decision that I will in regards to Arizona is if you look at the difference between how many votes Trump got and how many votes Hillary got, it is 91,000. So, assuming that all 115,000 actually do show up to vote, I'm expecting Joe Biden to take Arizona. So, we're going to go to the map, select Arizona, likely Democrat. Let's do Nevada next. Nevada's different because they have caucuses. So, what caucuses are compared to primaries is you kind of have to watch out and connect with your party leaders, and then they kind of tell you when the caucuses are. So you have a lot less people showing up because you're not like encouraged to go vote, and it's kind of word of mouth essentially in there. And so this one was kind of more difficult, but we found out that in 2016, 12,000 Nevadans showed up to the caucuses. And in 2020, we have almost 14,500 show up. And so that means that there was a 20% increase in voter turnout to the caucuses in that sense. And so the fact that Hillary Clinton won last time and then there are more Democrats coming in, I think it's pretty safe to say that Nevada will go Democrat. So that puts Biden at 221 and Trump at 70. So take out Arizona and Nevada. So what's next? Colorado. Colorado is particularly difficult because they don't have anything. And so what I did is I just took the recent presidential elections here. And so Joe Biden's running, and so people will probably be more motivated to vote for someone on the Obama ticket as they did in 2008 and 2012. Plus, last year they voted Democrat, and so I am going to give Colorado to Biden in that sense. So that puts Biden at 230 and Trump at 170. Now let's go to Iowa. So Iowa's kind of tough and so it's really hard to make a decision on this one. So in 2016, 1,400 people showed up to the caucuses, and then in 2020, we had a 53% increase because 2,100 people showed up to the caucuses. So that combined with Dem- uh, Biden being on the ticket and winning in 2008, 2012, you might think that Iowa would vote a Democrat. But if we look at what happened in the election, Trump had a huge lead. He had a 10-point lead in there, so 150,000 more people voting. And so you can make arguments for both sides, essentially. Iowa's a very, farm based conservative state, and who knows if it's big enough. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave Iowa alone and leave it gray because we do not know. So next would be Wisconsin. So pull up there. Um, yeah, so last time it was a surprise. Uh, Trump won that one. Um, we had 1 million people come in 2016, and then we actually had a decrease down to 924,000. So 8% decrease in there. So since Trump's already won, and then there's been a decrease in people who showed up, I am going to give Wisconsin to Trump in that sense. So next is Michigan. And Michigan might surprise some people. It surprised me for sure. So if we looked, just so people have perspective, in 2016, 1.3 million Michiganians, whoever it is, showed up in the primary, and just a little bit less, about 1.2, came up for Democrats from 2016. But then we look at 2020, and that went from 1.2 to 1.6. So just like way more than President Trump did in 2016, just a huge increase for Michigan. And so that makes me very comfortable calling Michigan for Joe Biden in there. So yeah, let's look at Indiana. Might be more favorable to Trump, but who knows? 2016, 600,000 Democrats showed up, and then we had a decrease for 2020, down to about 500,000. And then the fact that they went red the last 2 years makes Indiana, yeah, gonna put that Republican, just a little. Let's go Ohio. Yes, Ohio is famous because they've predicted every single winner of the election since like 1966. So basically, whoever Ohio chooses might win the election, but we'll see. So right now, in 2016, 1.2 million Democrats came out in Ohio's Democratic primary, and then that decreased to 860,000. So that's a 30% decrease. That combined with the fact Trump won means that I think it's pretty safe that Ohio is going to go red in there. So I already marked it red. So next, let's do Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, yeah, this one's a little bit complicated. I changed to orange boxes in this sense. So we do have a 5% decrease in there. And so, of course, that's saying, oh, Trump won. And so, of course, decrease. It might go to Trump, essentially. But if we looked, Bernie Sanders just had so much more show up in 2016 and less than 2020. And then Biden, he had 1.2 million show up versus 918. And so I'm kind of seeing that, like, even though there's a decrease, there's a strong enthusiasm for Biden in that sense. So it's very possible that people in Pennsylvania, if it would have been Biden Trump, Biden might have the advantage in there. But since there was a decrease and Trump won last time, I'm going to have to give Pennsylvania to Trump. But we'll do leaning Republican because who knows in that sense. But that puts Trump at 229 and Biden at 246. Next, let's do Virginia. So Virginia is at, so Donald Trump won it last time. There you go. That's why he switched it around. Good old New York Times throwing me off. 780,000 Democrats showed up in 2016. And then it went to 1.3 million. That's a lot more. I've 70% increase. That my math might be a little bit wrong. We're gonna change that to 40 and everything. In there, and so the fact that it almost doubled and Hillary Clinton won means Virginia is gonna be pretty blue, and I wouldn't expect it to go there. Trump shouldn't campaign there. Alrighty, let's jump to Florida. Let's wait on North Carolina in that sense. So Florida, we look at 2016. We got 1.7 Floridians showing up, and then we have 1.7 again. So like just barely an increase. And so 36,000 more Democrats showed up, and Trump won by 112,000. And so that's kind of not enough for it to give them any advantage. And then combined with the fact that less and less Democrats are showing up on there, and 47% showed up, means I'm going to give Florida to Trump. Now we can go North Carolina. North Carolina, we have 1.1 showing up in 2016, and then 1.3 increasing on there. And so this one's really tight because 174,000 Democrats showed up more showed up in the 2020 primary. But if we look at the difference in voters, 173,000 was the difference between Trump and Hillary. And so I guess technically, if all those Democrats show up, and then Trump gets the same amount of votes, then Biden would technically win in that sense. But again, they're neck and neck, and this one's really neck and neck. So I'm gonna leave that one alone because it's so close in that sense. So that's gonna stay there. All right, I think those are all the states. Yep, gave Florida there. So we got Iowa and North Carolina, who I can't really call for right now because of how close they are. So right now we are at Biden at 259 and Trump at 258. So when I said it was going to be close, it's going to be close, folks. So, of course, prediction time. I actually am going to go and make a guess on who's going to go, who's going to win. And so Iowa is very farm-like, so I'm going to give it to Trump in that sense. So that's 264. North Carolina. Let's go look at North Carolina again, see if we can make a determination. North Carolina is very tight, 138, 129, so a little bit less Democrats. But if we compare 2016 to 2020, which I guess is kind of unfair because we don't have, there was no primary for Republicans in that sense. So 138, 1138, and then 1300, big increase. So we gotta think, are there gonna be more Trump voters to show up? This is my judgment call. I'm gonna answer that with nope, they aren't. So that means Joe Biden is gonna be your next president. Which is great because I don't want to go to China and fight a war. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any opinions, go ahead, discuss them in the comments. I understand there may be some people like, oh no, Florida,
I think Florida's going to go blue because remember, I saw John Oliver's section on this.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?